live in the live stream, doing the live stream. There goes my lights in the live stream. It happens every single night at the exact same time, and you would think that I would just kind of like, I don't know, remember that it's gonna happen. Like you'd think that it would just be kind of a thing in my mind of like, hey, it's like 9:29, prepare for the darkening. But no, that would be. That's what a smart person would do. That's what a smart person would do. And I don't typically, come here, view myself as a smart person. A smart person probably wouldn't have just messed with the stream there. Anyone watching it's probably got like dark streams and whatnot. Someone smart would also probably know how to say the word screens or speak. But regardless, it's a live stream. It's a live stream. Doing the stuffs and the things in the live stream, talking about the atheists and the theists and the gods and the not gods and the stuffs and the things and the stuffs and the things. Yeah. Super happy to be here. I actually gotten a couple posts out this week. I really have not been posting as much as I need to lately. I got into a lot of political posts, which are important, but it's kind of, there was too much going on for me to really focus on my typical content. But trying to get my head back into that and get to posting and stuff again. I think that would be good for me to do. And I'm enjoying it. Because I do love making my usual content, my usual theist versus atheist content. I do like it. I love doing this. Just life, man. Just life, man. Living the dream or the nightmare. Living. I'm alive, I think I got that going for me. If you consider that to be like a good thing in this day and age, then I do have that going for me. Can't complain too loud. Yo. Hello, welcome. I mean, it's not like I have like a terrible life or anything. It's just I live on planet Earth in the year 2025. It's not like the best thing ever. How are you? I'm doing alright. Hello, both of you. We're here. Living life. Doing what we can. You don't want to be atheist anymore? Okay. I would recommend finding a channel that promotes not atheism. Because I promote atheism here. So this wouldn't be the place to go if you want to not be atheist. Not that I'm convincing people left and right to be atheists, but I can't be helping. I'm probably not helping too many people find their faith these days. Well, what can you do? Let me see. What do we do we have here in the comment section this week? We got into a discussion about purpose. Or I didn't. I started a lot of conversations about purpose from one of my videos. Because there are theists that argue, well, if there's no God, then there's no greater purpose or no, objective groundings for morality, no reason for us to be here. And when we die, then that's just it, and death gets the final say. And to that I say, so what? Just because you don't like, hello from Spain, nice, hello. Just because you don't like the idea of what life would be without a God does not mean that there must be a God. Needing a grand purpose is one of the most annoying talking points they have. We don't need one. We might just be here by chance, and the only thing we can do is try to enjoy it and make sure others enjoy it. Would you not watch a movie because you know it will end and it has no sequel? No, of course not. You would enjoy it while you experience it. It's just that simple. We're here. I don't know how we're here. I don't know why we're here. Hello. But we're here. Let's, I don't know, try to make the most of it. Whatever this is. And if it is just we happen to be here, or we're a natural process of the universe, if we're nothing special created by some intelligent designer, we're still here. We can still make the most of it. They've been using it. I think they missed it. We had a...
Were they just tortured the last couple of years?
I think so. We have cats, and we used to use the clay litter, but we didn't like how it got everywhere, so we switched to pine pellets. And we liked the pine pellets, but the cats didn't. So we just went back to clay litter, and I think they love it. I think they're very happy to have it back. There's already cat litter all over my house, but what can you do? Hello from Spain. Some tips of different live. What about tips of different live? I'm sorry, what?
As long as the cats are happy and are going on the floor, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'll deal with the cat litter on the floor. I'd rather that than their
I just don't like it.
bodily fluids.
I just don't like it.
Hold on a minute.
Hold on a minute. How was work?
I wanted to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to be home.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's TikTok. That's why I'm not finding I'm trying to find specific messages. I'm on the wrong app. Hello.
Hi, chat.
My lovely wife. Sometimes.
Why you always gotta say that?
Listen, I can't let you think that I love you, too much. It's just, you can't. You just can't.
God forbid you let your wife know you love her.
Yeah. I mean, I let you know, I just, there's gotta be,
Unlimited love.
Yeah.
God forbid you let me know you love me.
Yeah, there's gotta be, limits and poles. I can't make you feel too loved and comfortable with me.
Unconditional love.
It's unconditional. There's just some things.
Conditions? Conditions?
It's keeping you in check. Keeping you on your toes. Can't get too comfortable. I love you.
No, you don't.
And somebody said in my video where, it doesn't matter if there's not an afterlife or anything. We're here, make the most of it. Somebody who usually, I think they're trying to disagree with me. And they put, so let's eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Yeah. I think they're trying to, disagree with me, and they put 3 laughing, crying emojis after it. But, yeah, kind of. This is the only life that we know we're going to get, so, yeah, let's enjoy it.
I'll be on that farewell.
You don't believe in an afterlife? I do not.
Is our child still up?
She was like 10 minutes ago. So I have no idea. Is my answer. I can try to check the cameras real quick.
And if she was missing, go run to her real quick if she's already still on.
It's about 30 minutes ago is the last motion capture.
Okay.
So, doesn't look like it. Why is that? I have no reason to believe that there is an afterlife. I just don't have any reason to believe that there is. And like, not to be, I sometimes feel bad giving that as an answer of like, why don't you believe in a God? Why don't you believe in an afterlife, spirits, or whatever else? I kind of feel bad giving such a simple, dumbed down answer, but that's the answer. I don't have any reason to believe. How am I supposed to believe in something if I have no reason to believe in it? Love is not real. Love is not real, but God is real. Explain that to me, because isn't God love? Isn't love like... I don't know how you can have one without the other from a Christian perspective. I have heard of Jesus Christ. I was raised Christian. Spent most of my life worshiping him and following him. So major change? Diving into my studies to try to strengthen my ability to defend my faith, trying to become an apologist, because I was serious about my faith, dedicated to the Christian God, thought I had a good relationship with him. I prayed to him throughout the day, every day, trying to make sure my steps aligned with his plan for me. And I thought that I would get, signs and messages throughout the day, helping guide my path. I thought, I was in it, and I wanted to dedicate my life to this being, spreading this God's light, love, and message throughout the whole world if I could. And when I was in high school, I took a class in Christian apologetics where I realized I was not equipped for this task. I was woefully ill-prepared. So I just started studying more, diving into my studies, scripture, church history, arguments for and against the existence of God, scientific explanations for things, whatever you would see, attempt, to just see whatever you would see on, a atheist debate stage. And sometimes, for some people, I've heard it for a lot of people, but I'm not saying it as like a blanket statement. When you really look deeply, take a closer look at that, you kind of see the man behind the curtain. You kind of see what's kind of going on, or what appears to be going on behind the scenes. You start to see the severe lack of actual evidence to back up any of the supernatural claims made by any religions. Not to mention that a lot of religions are making pretty much the same or similar claims without backing them up, and while also saying that the other religions are wrong. It really loses its credibility. So slowly, over the course of about 7 years, I drifted away from my faith and became an atheist. And that's where I'm at. I am an atheist. When you think about Islam, not a fan, honestly. Not really a fan of the Abrahamic religions in general. The Abrahamic God. Just not a fan. Yeah, but read about it. It is perfect, all aspects. I do need to study it more. I typically focus on Christianity, but I have been wanting to branch out and study more into other religions. So I might just have to take your word for it. I'm not holding my breath. I very highly doubt that it's all perfect at all. But I'll just I'm not impressed so far. Since you're an atheist, who created the heavens and the earth? You can't live life without a faith. Yes, you can. Who created us? You're muddying the water with the words who and created. I don't have any reason to believe that anyone created, that anyone or anything intentionally created us. We seem to be a product of the universe, one that we don't fully understand. But just because we don't understand it, that doesn't mean it has to have been a god. And that was a great answer. I really thank you, friend. Cool. Good on you for being honest with yourself about something as hard as deconstructing. There weren't always such robust support systems for that transition. No, there really weren't. I was fortunate to find a few content creators who helped me, but yeah, and so I that's part of my thing with my content is just to try to be one more voice people can listen to when they're deconstructing, finding their way out of their faith, stuff like that. What caused the Big Bang? I have no idea. But for me, Islam fixed a lot of aspects, not only in my faith, but in my own logic. Answers to myself. Have a great time. Have a good night or day, wherever it is. Have good day, night, wherever it is. Hello. Not to offend you, but in my opinion, I find it sad that atheists believe nothing happens after someone dies. I mean, it's not my favorite thing, but if that's the reality of the situation, that's the reality of the situation. Life sucks sometimes. That is a fact of life, unfortunately. I would like there to be something else, but we just don't have any reason to believe. But if I wanted to try to stretch it a little bit, I would say it wouldn't be that nothing happens after we die. Yes, the chemical reactions that cause our consciousness, thoughts, feelings, all that stuff stop, and so we, from us, our perspective and whatnot, we just kind of cease to exist, and that sucks. But we can donate our organs, so our organs can go on to help other people. I would like to be planted in the ground, like in a tree pod, or just in some. I would like to return to the soil, return my nutrients to the soil. I can give back to the planet like that. The world goes on until we destroy it. So whatever impact I might have on the world or have on people's lives, they'll carry that with them. I've lost people in my life, and I still carry a part of them. A part of who I am is made of what I got from them. So I still carry that piece of them with me, and I pass that piece along. So, I like the saying. I can't remember who said it, but a lot happens after we die. It just doesn't involve us, or at least it doesn't involve the conscious us. Like I said, our bodies can do stuff afterwards, but it just doesn't involve the conscious us. What can you do? It's hard to pray 5 times a day. I pray just throughout the day. I just kind of made it habit, honestly. There were times in my life where I would spend over an hour praying before bed every night. I had to shorten it and revise it here and there because I would fall into the same repetitive prayers as I'm falling asleep. So I didn't really like that. So I would switch it up, shorten it, just trying to make sure I'm not just repeating words, trying to make sure I'm actually giving sincere intentions and also not falling asleep. But yeah, there were times where I would pray for over an hour before bed. They testified about Jesus. Oh, sorry. There's another comment. I'm sorry. But what about the Bible? The people that wrote the New Testament testified to what they saw about Jesus Christ. They testified about Jesus Christ. So none of the gospel accounts or any of the accounts in the Bible are believed to be firsthand eyewitness accounts of Christ. So nobody wrote anything about what they specifically saw about Christ. So yeah, there's that. No life after death is what it is. It makes perfect sense once you realize that we're just stacked biomatter, and it gives you a perspective on what really matters in the short time we have. Yeah, it death definitely gives more meaning to life and more urgency to the need to live this life and make the most out of this life while we're here, and to help make sure other people do the same. To me, it makes more sense that we have a creator than believing that we don't have one. Sure, you know, I just go by evidence. I can definitely understand how we can kind of fill in some holes and make it make more sense and feel more comfortable with the idea of there being a creator. I definitely understand that, but at the end of the day, we really just have no good solid evidence for it. We can't really rely on feels or what makes sense to us or things like that. We are the evidence. We are, how so? How so? I'm just laughing. I get people every now and then insulting me in comment sections saying that I look Jewish, and it's just it just makes me chuckle. It's just like, what? I mean, maybe. God created us in his image. Created us in his image. Did he? How do we know that? Gospels are probably based off the community saying about Jesus' life minimally 30 or 40 years after his death. No reason to believe the writers were carefully, meticulously asking eyewitnesses. Yeah, probably. There's kind of stories passed on. I'm from Dubai. I feel social pressure to be Muslim. My family follow it. For your safety, it might be good to just kind of go with the motions. Maybe find some communities online where you can kind of be yourself or believe what you believe or not believe or whatever. But for your safety, I don't know what all your family life is or how safe it would be for you to just be yourself. Or I don't even know if you're doubting Islam or whatever, but in some cases it might be good just to go with it. It all has to do with faith. Faith is not a good reason to believe in anything. Faith is what you plug in when you don't have any actual reason to believe something. It's belief in the absence of evidence. And you can have faith in anything. I can have faith that this mouse is going to turn into a unicorn one day and carry me off to Valhalla. And plenty of other religions use faith to justify their gods. So we're all these religions with all these gods are using faith. Who's right? Faith is just a plug-in to a gap. I'm struggling with depression. Can you help? Probably not. maybe a little bit. I would definitely recommend seeking professional mental health help. I am definitely not a therapist or psychiatrist. I'm not sure what I have for you. I might be able to give you some words of encouragement depending on your situation, but I'm definitely not the professional. There's no hope for you. You fucked up your life. Cool. Just like we trust people in medicine you take. Just like you trust people in the medicine you take. For reasons. There's research to suggest that medicine works and that medicine does a certain thing. And when I take a medicine and it has the effect that it's supposed to have, I just took allergy medication before this stream. I'm still going to be dying because I die every stream. Don't know why, but that helps me with my allergy medication. I take fish oil to help with nerve damage. You know, it's when studies come out of medicine saying, hey, it does this and it does this and it does this, and then when you take it and it does that, that's not really faith. That's reason to believe. And trusting people, to an extent, I know that all people are capable of messing up. I don't know if I trust anyone 100%. I can trust people's intentions. There are people in my life who I can tell really love me and care for me and who are going to be there for me, but they can still make mistakes. Trust and faith is the same thing. I don't completely disagree. There might be like tiny pedantic differences, but isn't there research to prove the Bible? Depends on what we're looking at. There's some research that some people and locations depicted in the Bible existed. Some nations existed. Egypt is a place, and Egypt is in the Bible. So, like, you know, there you go. A lot of what we see of Egypt in the Bible, especially in the book of Exodus, probably didn't happen. Probably was all just kind of like made up. But, you know, Egypt exists, so like it kind of depends. We have some stuff for places and people. At least you're honest about the crux of this whole religion thing. Oh, you're talking to somebody else. When you go to eat at a restaurant, do you have faith that they won't poison you? I have reason to believe, based on evidence, most people, the vast majority of people who go and eat at restaurants do not get poisoned. And the vast majority of times, not 100% of the time, but the vast majority of times that I have gone to restaurants or eaten at restaurants, I have not gotten any kind of poisoning or illness. There was one time I got pretty bad food poisoning from a fast food restaurant. So it can happen, and it's a risk, you know, but more likely than not. I mean, there are plenty of stories that you hear of, you know, food not being cooked properly or handled properly and people getting sick of this and that. I'm sure there's stories somewhere about, you know, someone poisoning. Well, there are some about, I can't bring any examples, I can't remember, but I've heard stories about like some intentional, few and far between, some intentional poisonings, but it can happen, but the vast majority of the time it doesn't. And so you should be safe. That's called trust, not faith. Why would you trust a bunch of Iron Age men that thought stoning women for not bleeding their first time was God's will? Yeah, I wouldn't. I did believe in Santa Claus as a young child. How do you feel about the Charlie Kirk situation? I didn't like him. Strongly disagreed with what he stood for and what he pushed for. Thought that he was spreading a lot of harm to the country and the world. Absolutely condemn his assassination. Absolutely unacceptable. And I know that is something that has really, really, really kind of caused some division, even among people, you know, other atheists and atheist communities and more left-leaning communities. But I don't think we should solve our issues by killing them. I don't want to live in a world where we solve our issues by killing them. I don't think vigilante justice is the way to do it, even if we do need to kill somebody. I think it's absolutely unacceptable the way that he died. Charlie Kirk is old news. Come on, it's been 6 days. Well, yeah. If it was a school shooting victim, like the one that happened the day of, nobody would care. I don't know if anyone died in the school shooting. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am. I don't know if anyone died in the school shooting the day of. But nobody cares about that. A lot of the right has already forgotten about Melissa Hortman and her husband. But, you know. Why should I trust in God? I have no reason to believe. But those are my thoughts. I don't really feel the need to get too deep into it. Did 2 people die from that? Okay. And see, it's just been buried. Charlie Kirk's not old news, but as we're demonstrating, all the school shootings that have been happening, just this school year alone, are. You know, if Charlie Kirk was a 5th grader in a school and was a victim of shooting, he would have been forgotten by now. Everyone would have moved on. Hi, Doom. Was that the Evergreen? It's hard to see anything on it because my news is just fucking inundated by Charlie Kirk stuff. Was it Evergreen? Critically injured too. Just grab a random news article. This is too political. I'll have to look at that later. Only God can judge if he's there. R.I.P. Charlie Kirk, but I didn't like him. That's kind of where I'm at, you know? It's like that should not have happened. I'm not really going to miss him, but it shouldn't have happened. Read the New Testament? I have. Have you heard of Realism, the YouTuber? I haven't. What's Realism got? The Jews at the time of the New Testament were out of hand. Please continue. What do you have to say? What more do you have to say on that? Would not be surprised if Charlie Kirk wasn't resting in peace. Then again, the Bible famously has very little concern about how you lived and cares more about how you believe, what you believed. Yeah. We should debate more often. Me? Sure. I'm down. What are you doing, phone? Took a picture and there's like a little pop-up at the top. It goes, refining picture, and it was like a loading screen. I'm like, what are you doing?
Refining picture, duh.
I wasn't aware that was a thing. Who's we, you, and I, or you, and Drew? All of us. Sure. What are my political views? I typically lean more left, more towards Democrat, even though I don't really like the Democrats or the Republicans. It's context dependent, yeah. I don't know if that's what you were responding for, Doom, but that was what I was thinking. What my political views, specific, what specifically are you asking about? I support the LGBTQ plus community. I don't see any good reason outside of religious bigotry to be against the LGBTQ plus community. I don't have my ring or my bracelet. I at least have my ring. I can put my ring in. Let the people know that I'm unmarried. Because I have my extra ring. David, that is an option. If you look at the pinned chat, I don't know how to do it with like my own channel. I think a lot of people ignore the pinned chat because it's like broken spectacles. What is that? It's not me, but I don't know. Noting over the past few streams you've forgotten to add the Discord link. I've added it. There was one time that I didn't add it just because I didn't feel like it. One of the last Discord streams I went to, because when we pass like the hour mark, and especially once you get a ways past the hour mark, I go ahead and unpin it just because it's like, we're wrapping up. I don't really have time to get into a 30, 45 minute possibly conversation. And one of the last streams I went to unpin it and noticed it was already unpinned. So I don't know. Maybe I didn't even post it. Maybe you're right. Maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I haven't slept properly in about 3 months. So I keep forgetting things. I'll set things, like I'll eat food and I'll have my plate and I'll finish it and I will just get up and walk away and I will forget that plate exists. And I just keep doing stuff like that. I got a candy wrapper. I got a piece of candy from the candy bowl that we have, and I just dropped the wrapper back into the bowl and walked away, and then came back and was like, oh, the wrapper's just in the bowl. Like I keep just I'm going through some kind of cognitive decline. I need sleep. Maybe Jesus is the best. Who knows? Do you think Trump is doing good? Not necessarily. Not particularly, I should say. I don't think Trump's a Christian either. I think I'm a better Christian than Trump. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Trump. Or really his cabinet. All of his goons. Anti-science, anti-humanism, anti-anything that isn't white. Oh, I forgot to switch chats. I'm just not really here for it, you know? Voted for Kamala? I did too. I didn't really like her as an option either. Don't get me wrong, I'm not really a Biden or Harris fan, but you know, I haven't really been getting good candidate choices lately. What can you do? I do think she would have been better than Trump, which is why I voted for her, but Trump's a moron. Every time I try to find a nugget of goodness in something he's doing, he finds a new way to let me down. 2016, I hated that man, but at least we got the Space Force, and my 401k did okay. There you go. What do you think about the pro-life, pro-choice debate, and which side are you on, and why? I am pro-life. Oh, no, pro-choice? God, my brain. Pro-choice. I am pro-choice. And my number one reason is because I don't have a uterus. So it's never going to be a situation where I personally have to deal with it and make the decision. So it's not something that will ever directly affect me. So I don't think I should get a say. But I also just believe in bodily autonomy and a woman's right to choose. Trump isn't a Christian. A Christian would call for a bishop, would not call for a bishop to be deported for suggesting mercy. He's using Christians as a stepping stone to power. Yeah. Abortion is murder. I disagree. I do think it is a woman's choice. These days, I have no faith. I have no faith in nation will exist as it has in a few years. I don't know what's going to happen with this country, man. So by that logic, would a husband have no say in whether to keep his child or not? I feel like that is a really sad thing. It's not your body. And I definitely agree that I would agree it's sad. And I might argue that you should take a husband or a father's ideas into consideration. But at the end of the day, I think it should be up to the person actually carrying the child, the person who is at risk, the person who has to deal with the pregnancy. Because even a healthy pregnancy is a lot to ask of someone. Do you believe in more gun control? I think we got to do something. I'm all for, and I don't have a solution. But I'm fine with people who aren't going to harm other people having whatever guns they want. That's fine. I think they should. But too many people who are harming people are getting a hold of guns. Way too many people. Way too many people. Gun violence in the U.S. is outrageously larger than in any other country. It's the number one cause of death in the U.S. for children. That's fucking crazy. So yeah, too many mass shootings. So it's like I am for the Second Amendment. I am, right to defend yourself. I don't live in the best part of the country. I know we can call the police, but if somebody is climbing in my window now, at best, police might be here in a few minutes. Buddy's in my window now. He's going to be in my house in 5 seconds. He's going to be in my room or my children's room in 10 seconds. 2 minutes, 3 minutes for a police response time isn't a long time, but it's a long time. A lot can happen in that time period. So you need to be able to defend yourself. I don't think we have any chance of standing up against tyranny, especially since a lot of the people who say we need gun rights to stand up against tyranny aren't currently standing up against tyranny. But in minor cases like home invasion and stuff, or just for fun, but the amount of gun violence and gun deaths and mass shootings cannot be ignored. It can't. Something's got to happen, and I don't have that solution. I'm open to solutions and to talk about it, but I don't really know. I don't know. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. Everyone who is not going to harm people with guns should have guns, full unlimited access. And everyone who is going to should not have guns, should not have access to guns. How we do that, I have no fucking idea, or if it's even remotely possible. I have no idea. That's like a pipe dream, grand fantasy of, the best utopian answer. But yeah, I agree. But didn't they agree to at least the possibility of the issues that come with pregnancy? Not always. Consent to sex isn't necessarily consent to becoming pregnant. Because sex isn't all about procreation. You can do it for fun or for connectiveness between you and your partner. It's just not necessarily the same thing. I'm sorry, I scrolled them. All humans have rights, even small humans. Sure, but nobody has the right to use another human's body against that human's without that human's consent. I think a woman should be more responsible in protection or birth control because it is irresponsible to get pregnant than just kill the baby. So what about men? Should men also have that? Be responsible? It takes two to tango, I said it before, but until the fetus demonstrates the ability to think and feel, it is not a person quite yet. That gives woman 24 weeks to come or more to come to a decision. Yeah, especially early first trimester abortions, which is where the vast majority of them take place. Um, alive is kind of a weird subject. Imagine being alive. That's what abortion does. I don't really think that's the end goal. The end goal is to terminate a pregnancy. Unfortunately, there is a something connected to that pregnancy that will also be terminated. But that's not. It's not. The purpose of an abortion isn't just to kill babies. Just realize it didn't specify when they had an action that causes children. When they actually take part in it, yeah. Still, consent to sex isn't consent to pregnancy. No. Firearms should circulate through civilians for reasons such as fighting against corrupt governments and more, but of course there should be regulations on who can access them. I don't even know if we can. I mean, are we going to be able to stand up against the United States government if it comes down to it, an oppressive government? Because for one thing, we're not. A lot of people saying, "Oh, we'll fight against any tyranny. We'll take up arms against tyranny," aren't. My first go-to, much with the Charlie Kirk thing, isn't to go shooting people. But also like, especially at the military, which Trump's already sent the National Guard into a couple states, 2 or 3 states, 3, California, Chicago. I know Chicago's not a state, but Illinois, Chicago specifically, and DC. So he's already sent out the National Guard. He's already using the military against civilians. Maybe not necessarily in like full-on war style, but he's already got them. Plus, they have access to the power grid. We can talk right now, and we can coordinate through social media, through text, all that stuff. If they kill the power, we are completely blind. In a horrible, horrible, horrible scenario, they could kill the power and wipe out an entire state, and we would not know it until the lights came back on, and we wouldn't be able to do anything about it. So nobody's standing up against this oppressive government, and if we tried, we would lose. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Maybe we should do something about men getting women pregnant. Yeah. Yes, but if the woman doesn't allow it, it won't happen. And yes, a man should be responsible, of course. Allow it is a strong word. The purpose of abortion is to terminate the pregnancy, not to kill a baby. I am personally pro-life because I think that human dignity comes from a procreation between man and woman, so a woman has no right to end that life. Right to life precedes women's rights of bodily autonomy. I would disagree. Asexual, female, and pro-choice, nice. In a case that I might kill the woman, then I could agree with that. But any other reason, nah. See, here's the problem, though. A lot of abortion bans that are coming out don't take that into consideration. It's kind of all or nothing. They don't really. There are women who have had to suffer and die because they didn't get medical help for a miscarriage. Because abortion procedures used in an abortion would have had to been used, and abortion bans came out, so they can't use those procedures. So it didn't work out well for the woman, unfortunately. So we're already with these bans. We can't help a woman who's having a miscarriage in some states where the baby's already gone. We can't help her survive, and we just let her die. If a 10-year-old girl gets pregnant, sucks. She's got to give birth to the baby. It's a damn shame. That's kind of the issue. Is a lot of these abortion laws aren't looking at those nice, decent, exceptions or anything like that. Is the government more important than God? I don't believe that God exists. So, it kind of looks like we're comparing something that exists to something that doesn't. So I would have to say the government's probably more important than God. I believe that for whatever reason, even if it's not your fault, if you are directly linked to another human being and you are using that human being to sustain yourself, they have a right to unhook you. They have that right over their body. I think that's what it is. So if we want to say that this fetus inside this woman in the first trimester is a clump of cells, is an actual human, still doesn't have the right to use the woman's body without consent. I always like to bring up, and a lot of people do, even when we die, nobody has a right to, and I see your Discord message, give me a minute. Even when we die, if you want to donate your organs, you need to sign off on that beforehand. Otherwise, if you don't, it doesn't matter if little Timmy is dying next door and your heart's a perfect match and your heart would save him. You didn't sign that piece of paper, nobody can touch your body. Nobody can take your viable organs off of your corpse where you are no longer using them, so they rot and die with you. So when it comes to abortion bans, we are giving women less rights. We are taking away rights from a woman that we give to a corpse. And I think that's kind of fucked up. Jay talks a lot. Just popped into the Discord. Are you? Yeah, you are. Okay, give me just a second, Jay. I'm sorry. Because we can't do anything simple here. Jay, pronouns he, him, wants to discuss my ideas and reactions to the arguments for God. Not a specific one, more of a cumulative case. And just kind of bat some stuff around. I can do that. Give me just a second to get you all set up. And I think we can discuss that. My brain, it went dark. Just looking at what I'm trying to do. My brain doesn't want a brain. Boop. You said your name was Jay. Hello, can you hear me? I cannot hear you, Jay. Oh, I'm not. I'm sorry. Gosh, I'm stupid. I'm sorry, Jay. I'm incredibly stupid.
No, you're good, dude.
I can't hear you. I'm saying as I'm standing
honestly,
outside the chat room.
No, you're good. Your mic's a little bit suppressed, but we'll work with it.
Okay.
So what's going on, man? I guess I just saw your stream and I was like, okay, sure. So I joined in. I don't really have like a specific reason for being here.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, I was an atheist and I turned Christian, so I guess I'm just curious on your viewpoints about this.
Sure. Anything specific?
Yeah, I guess we could start off with like the contingency argument. I'm sure you're familiar with it, or if you want, I can like give you the rundown.
I am, but people sometimes have different variations of it, and people in the chat don't always know what it is. So how about you give a quick rundown?
Okay, so everything either exists contingently or necessarily. Contingent means that it could have not existed, and necessarily means that it must exist. And number two is that contingent beings exist, and the universe could have not been, so the universe is contingent. So in order for reality or existence to be contingent, then it must come from a necessary being that could have not been, and we would describe this as God.
Okay.
So I guess just give me the rundown. What do you reject? Why? What's your evidence that's more compelling?
My thing and this is one of the answers that I don't really like giving because there's not really much there. But uh, I do you have my stream on in the background? I'm hearing playback.
No, it's on mute. So
Okay, I must just be playing back. That's okay. It's not too
yep.
distracting. Um, so we have the Big Bang, the Big Expansion,
Mhm.
the start of the universe. We have absolutely no idea beyond that. So I can understand this idea of like something had to have caused it, and whatever state before that, something must have caused that. Maybe, I don't know. Did the universe have a beginning? Is it infinite and just going through different phases? We don't know. As soon as we get past the Big Bang, we are in a place before space and a time before time, and it is just a big empty. We have no idea. So we can always speculate, and we can always think about different things that would make sense that might have caused the universe. But at the end of the day, there's we don't know anything past the Big Bang, so we have no idea. I want to try to steer away from like God of the gaps arguments, just because you don't know, therefore it has to have been some kind of necessary being, and therefore that has to have been a God. We have no idea how anything happened before the Big Bang.
Well, I would say that God of the Gaps is I wouldn't really invoke God of the Gaps here, and the reason why is because if we assume, like, even if we grant the idea the universe maybe maybe it's something else, right? You still run to the idea of like what caused that, and if you keep going back philosophically, I don't believe that we could be at a point in time now if there's philosophical infinity or infinite regress. It's like the idea of there's an infinite number of steps to get to my door. If I ever reach my door, which is the now, there's not an infinite number of steps. So I have problems with philosophical infinite regress. And the second point is that even if we grant the universe is eternal or something like that, I would just say that it conflicts with the idea of like science as we know today. For example, like the I believe it's the second law of thermodynamics. All things in a closed space must eventually fizzle out and come to an equilibrium, which, as we know, the universe is not even close to an equilibrium. So I wouldn't say that. I have problems with the universe being eternal scientifically. I think that an infinite regress is impossible, and I believe that you would agree with that too. I think that you're a logical person. So
So,
I think that the idea of a god or a necessital being must be the best case.
so, with the laws of thermodynamics, we have to understand those are laws that operate within the universe as it exists now. Before the universe, before our current concept of time and space began, we have absolutely no idea what was going on. So we can't really apply those laws outside of that. I've had this the infinite timeline, and we can't get to our current reality on an infinite timeline thing brought up a few times. I just kind of have a hard time wrapping my head around it because we can still be at a point on the timeline. Like even in your analogy, which I know there are no perfect analogies, so maybe I'm picking it too much,
Yeah.
but you're still on the stair step. You're still taking steps on the stairs. So that you are still at a point in your journey. And I think even if the timeline was infinite in both directions, if I don't even know if it was, but even if it is infinite in either directions, we could still be moving along the infinite timeline and on points on the timeline.
Yeah. So again, I think the issue with that is that we're locked into time, right? So I'll put it like this. Here's, I think, a better way to phrase it for you, because I think that the idea of infinite regress is one of the stronger ideas for God. So I'll phrase it like this, right? If you are at point one, right? Let's say you're at point one on the timeline, and there's a negative, like before that, from zero beyond that, all the way to negative infinity, right? If you keep adding up one and starting at negative infinity, if you ever reach one, then it's not infinite. So that's the point I'm trying to get. The fact that if there was something before that and before that, before that, we can just keep begging the question about what causes it. If we keep doing that and we have that infinite regress, as some atheists believe, I'm not sure if you believe that or where the universe came from. If you want to talk about the eternal ball of energy before the universe, we could talk about that. If you want to talk about the universe as a brute fact, we could talk about that. But an infinite regress, I would say, is one of the least probable ideas for the existence of the universe, purely because philosophically it doesn't hold up. No serious philosopher will tell you that infinite regress and then having a point where it just stops and we are is logical.
I think I'm probably one of the worst people to talk to when it comes to like the universe and before and stuff, because as I've said a couple times, I just have no idea. They have no idea. I don't really love the idea of infinite regress. Uh, a starting point, sure, but then like infinite starting points, and even the idea of a god, because I understand we kind of like to just give ultimate perfect, beyond everything else qualities to a god, but even the idea of an infinite god is crazy to me. And if we can have an infinite being, why not like an infinite universe? But
Yeah.
genuinely, I am just a huge blank when it comes to
No,
what
no, it's
came
good. I
before
can
with the universe.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm glad that you admit that. I'm glad that you're like honest about that.
I try to
That
be.
was something else I was struggling with too. There was the idea of an infinite God. So when we say God is infinite from a theist perspective, we don't mean that God takes up infinite space or is like infinitely or like infinitely spatial, right? We mean the exact opposite. God is immaterial. God is the maximally greatest, as which no greater can be thought, and thus therefore we apply these maximally great features to them. So that's the first part. Second thing is that I'm also reading through chat at the same time. Someone said, if you have an infinite number of steps and an infinite amount of time, you will reach the end. That's a fair point, but then I want to touch on to the idea, if there is an end, that means that there truly is a biggest number, and that this biggest number is either even or odd.
I don't love
I
that
don't think
analogy.
that.
I don't
Yeah.
love that chat.
Yeah, the idea of infinite time, infinite number of steps, you never reach the end of infinity. If you ever do, you have a biggest number, which nobody believes in that. So I'm going to move that out of the way. But if you want, I can draw away from the idea of infinite regress. If you're not in like a position to talk about that, that's cool.
Yeah,
So
we
can
just
talk
have
about
no idea what happened before the Big Bang. We do just
yeah.
factually speaking have no real idea. We can speculate on what might make sense, but we really have no good hard evidence about anything. And again, we're talking about a place before space existed in a time before time
Yep.
existed. So I
And,
don't know.
and that's the really big thing that I want to bring up. That's contingent about this, right? If I want to, let's say I want to start a fire, right? A fire can't start itself, right? It can't just pop into existence. We both agree on that premise, right?
I, I'm willing to, because like
Yeah, I promise. I'll draw it
it's
to the thing I'm trying to get at right now.
my,
I'm not trying to like
I think
trap
my
you or
brain's
anything.
no, I think my brain's trying to be too analytical. Like there's spontaneous combustion, but like it is still like there's things in place that start a fire. But I'll agree with you. I'm trying to
You're
be
good.
too dumb about
You're
it.
good. No, you're so good. But what's it called? Let's just get the basic stuff out of the way. If
Yeah.
you want to cause something, the thing can't just cause itself, right? Because if it has a beginning, you can't just cause itself.
Mhm.
Such how I think that undermines the very notion of science that things can just come into reality uncaused, or I guess come into reality and begin at a point uncaused. So that undermines the notion of science.
Well, I
You
would
said,
believe
in your own words, oh, what's up?
I would believe that the universe had a cause. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
what.
So we're gonna break down like probability theory here, and we're gonna see which one, but between us two, right? Which one do you think makes more sense? So we're gonna break this down. Space and time very much had a beginning. We both agreed on that. There was a space before space and a time before time.
At least our
So,
current understanding of space and time, our
yeah,
current universe, had a beginning.
yeah, 100%. I think that if we plead to, well, maybe in the future, I think that there you're pleading to the end because you're saying, I don't know, but of our current understanding, we believe that space and time had a beginning. So let's go with that.
Yes.
In order to cause space, in order to cause time, something, whatever it must be exempt of space and time. Therefore, it cannot be something material. We both agree on that. At least I assume you would, because it wouldn't apply by. Oh, well, what's up?
I just don't know what it would be. And I mean, and it's one of those situations where I understand that a being that you are describing or a something that you are describing would be able to be that, that stop to the infinite regress or that uncaused cause or, whatever else have you. But that doesn't mean it's there. Like if I could come up with a story about how the universe was pooped out by a giant rainbow space cat during the intergalactic laser wars of Stardate E370, and I could go into details and fit in all the things that would make sense, all the details that would make sense that would lead us to the situation we're in now, but that wouldn't make that space cat a thing. It's not evidence saying that like if this thing existed, it would solve this problem is great. And ideally, I would kind of like for there to be. I'm one of those people, I would like there to be something else out there personally. I know that's not the
Yeah.
most common point among the atheist community, but I would like there to be something else out there. And it would be a good answer. But just because it would be, just because it makes sense, just because, that it doesn't, that's not evidence to me.
Okay, so then we won't break down. We'll break down the idea of just following from pure logic, right? Let's go down the idea of just breaking down, not like specifically modal logic, just like genuine logic. We both, I think that we can both go by probability theory and state that I think that it'd be more probable that something that made space, something that made time, would be exempt of space and time. Do you agree on that? Like, do you think that it'd be more probable? Or it's like me saying, I cannot occupy something that I'm currently making. It's like the idea of a builder living in a house that he's going to finish building in 3 months from now. So from pure logic, I don't think that you can inhabit something that you have yet to make, or else that'd be a contradiction. We can agree on that, correct?
I think I'm sounding like a broken record, but I don't know if we can establish probability with things that we can't demonstrate. I have no idea what the probability of, because again, we can play with hypotheticals, and maybe that's where you're trying to go, of like, if this thing existed, it might have a better chance of if this thing didn't, or if this other thing existed. But when we're really talking about probability, we don't know anything about any of them. We have no we have no way to assess probability of the existence of a god or another state of the universe or another being or anything like that.
Yeah, well, when we're talking about probability theory, we don't mean like hard actual numbers, like, oh, there was a 55% chance of this happening, right? We're talking about which one seems more probable to us.
Okay.
So do you deem it more probable that something that has not been caused can inhabit the thing that has been caused in, like, let's say, a month from now? Just by like a quick yes or no. If something has not been made yet, is it possible that that thing can make itself, or will it be exempt from that thing? Just a quick yes or no.
Can it be? I'm sorry, repeat that one more time.
If something, let's say that like I was talking about before, in a month from now, a builder is going to finish building a house. The builder can't inhabit that house because he's going to finish building it in a month from now. Just in the same way, space and time, I believe, are emergence. I believe that most like quantum mechanics would agree on that. So if we can go down that line, I don't believe that space and time can cause themselves. They must be caused by something else. Most people believe it's more probable than that, because I think that something causing itself is entirely illogical. It goes against the very notion of science. That's something that's a stance that's been taken by most scholars, I would say.
Unless space and time to some extent are infinite, and maybe they don't need a cause. Maybe they're the necessary thing, or
yeah,
a
but
necessary
as
thing.
as we understand space and time, if you call something the necessary thing, then you have to think about, well, it must always be, no matter the case, right? If you look towards for example, like fine tuning, it's becoming increasingly wider senses that space and time are not necessary parts, but rather emergent parts of the universe, and that must come into existence at the same point. That's why we get space time.
Sure.
So the idea of space and time being necessary isn't really backed up by any real science.
Okay.
So, what would be your response to that? Because we know that space and time are not necessary. That position really isn't taken. The idea is the universe a brute fact? No serious scientist, I say, would take that stance.
I don't know
However,
if I'd be willing to rule out, and maybe being necessary isn't the word that I should use, but I don't know if we can be completely able to rule out an infinite space and time, at least to some capacity. And especially, and I say it to some capacity because we always say our current space and time started at the Big Bang. There may have been some kind of space or time before that. There could have been another universe before that. We really just have no idea. But I am willing to. I am on board with this idea of stuff happens because of something else. Something causes something else to happen. I am on board with that.
okay, so I'm glad we're getting some common ground here. So I'm glad that we agree on that. I guess are you, forgive me to ask, are you like an agnostic atheist? Are you a hardcore atheist? Are you an agnostic purely?
Agnostic atheist.
Okay, so you're just you don't know if there's a God. You're unconvinced, right?
Correct. I do not have the belief, but I don't claim to know that there is not one.
Okay, so what would I guess let's just find this here. What would convince you or give you evidence, or give you like hard evidence? I think this will make me believe in a God.
I have no idea, if I'm going to be honest with you. I would typically look to what we use as standard for evidence for everything else, something tangible, testable, observable, repeatable, things like that. Basically the same standard of evidence for everything else. If we were to talk, and I know this isn't exactly what we're talking about, but whenever somebody asks me about specifically like the Christian God or the triomni God or whatever, I would say that an all-knowing God would know what it would take to convince me. An all-powerful God would be able to do what it takes to convince me, and an all-loving God who wants a relationship with me would want to do what it takes to convince me. So that's for that specific thing. But if we're just talking about like a broad, non-specific creator,
Yeah,
I really don't know.
I'm looking for the idea of like a non-specific. If you want to get into Christianity, we can totally do that later down the line. I'm totally down to get into history, whatever you want, right? But right now, I'm just looking towards a necessitable being. Not any God in particular, although I am Christian, but we can talk about that later down the line.
Yeah, we can stick to just the broad one, which again, I don't know what evidence that would look like.
No, that's fair. I guess I guess the thing that I would have to ask really is let me formulate this in a way. Whenever you say that you don't know, right? Like let me not take a stance. I don't know if there's a God. I don't know if this. I don't know if that. Do you? How do I? Sorry. Whenever I talk to an agnostic atheist, I have to like ask a question that makes. I don't want to make it sound like you're affirming there's no God. It's always tricky with agnostic atheists. I'll touch back on that in a moment.
Honestly,
but
I'm one of those people where like, if you say like I'm not trying to say it like this or I'm not trying to be contrary, I'm pretty good with you saying whatever. Because sometimes people do try to be too sensitive. Like I'm LGBTQ plus. I have people asking me about LGBTQ plus stuff, and it's like I don't know how to ask this about like without being offensive. I'm just like just ask it because as soon as I know that you're genuinely not trying to be contrary or whatever, that you're just like curious, ask away and we'll figure out what you're trying to say.
Yeah, sorry, I have to correct this guy in chat. I don't know what this guy in chat is like.
I usually ignore chat because
this guy in chat's talking about stuff. There's no evidence for Jesus outside the Bible. He has not heard of Tacitus or Suetonius or Pliny the Younger or Josephus or the Babylonian Talmud.
Well,
all of these talk about Jesus in a negative connotation, but still talk about him.
That is a completely different discussion because I don't think credibility. That might be a different call.
Yeah, no, this guy Jim McCarr, love you, man, but just, you had to be careful with this stuff. First the infinite regress and others. But let's get back onto the topic here. So, once again, I'm gonna keep touching on this, right? Because I want you to see if your line of reasoning is still adding up there. I believe it's a logical contradiction for something to cause itself and have a beginning. I think that if something came to be, the thing that allowed it to be must have been outside of its own existence. I don't think that's a scientific thing. I think that's just a purely logical idea. I don't think that dinosaurs can just pop into existence from nothing. They must be something else. I don't believe that the clothes on my shirt can just pop in from nothing, right? They didn't sew themselves. So, if space and time, as most scientists believe, are emergence, there must be something else outside of that. Now the follow-up question is let's go down the list, right? Let's go for like the three main ideas, right? It's either something came from nothing, the eternal ball of energy, or like a necessitable being, or maybe it's just some other thing we don't know about, right? Some other natural process we don't know about. Those are the four that we'll go with, right?
Okay.
So I'm gonna just go through these, and you let me know if you have any idea or like any problem with them. I'm gonna actually write these down. something from nothing. Just
I,
so I
I'm
don't
glad. I'm
misquote.
glad you're writing them down because I probably would have forgotten
Yeah.
the list.
Me too. Natural process. You're actually pretty chill. Natural process, and then something from nothing. Natural process, necessary being, and eternal ball of energy. So the something from nothing idea, I frankly call ridiculous. I'm hoping that you can call it ridiculous too. I think that nothing can't exist because the term is not. I would see a contradiction. For something to be and also not to be at the same time is a complete. It's a philosophical contradiction that's been going back for a while. So the idea of something from nothing, I would just completely rule out. Okay, can we get to even terms on that?
I would agree. As soon as you put any kind of attributes or action or anything towards nothing, it ceases to be nothing.
It's no longer nothing.
It's this weird.
Look at this. We're finding some ground here.
It's this
Okay.
weird void of like, don't touch it. As soon as you touch it, it becomes something.
If nothing exists, it's not nothing. So that's the first thing. So
nothing's an odd concept.
So yeah, so something from nothing. Let's get that out the way, right? Logically impossible. Number 2, necessary being. We're gonna get to that in a moment.
Okay.
Let's go for number 3, natural process. I would say that for something to like choose to create, right? It must. If we go to the idea of there's something else we don't know about that grounded this to be, whether it be like a law of some sort, something exempt from the universe that's like a natural law, then it just begs the question further: what causes that? What causes that? And we keep going, and you kind of feed back into the infinite regress thing, until you go on. Hey, this is the very last, and then we get into the necessary being part. So I think natural processes is something that's a little bit odd. I also think that going from not creating to creating, you need a mind for that. So I would say the idea of natural process I find less probable. So what are your ideas for that?
I really, and you already mentioned this earlier, so maybe I'm prematurely bringing this up. Of we don't know if these are the only options or the only possibilities. We have no idea. As far as natural processes, creating stuff, we know that from the Big Bang to now, we have pretty good explanations of a lot of the natural processes that got us from there to now. So it could just be that there's more natural processes, and yeah, we get into the infinite regress, and I don't really know how to solve that. I don't.
No,
but I don't
fair.
know if that's a good reason. I don't know if that's a good reason to plug a creator intelligent being in, just to like stop that regress. I don't know if that's a good enough reason to invoke a creator being.
Well, I would say that we're not doing it just to like, oh, let me do a little shimmy, right, and just plug this in here. It's because I would say that it has to happen. That's where we get the idea of like a necessitable being, right? So, infinite regress. Again, if we ever come to a point where it stops or there's an end to it, it's not infinite. So, the idea of an infinite regress, the fact that we are here in the first place, or that we exist at a certain point in time, and there was an infinite number of steps before us, that implies that it's not infinite. There's a certain biggest measurement of time, and we're living in it right now, which is really trippy to think about, but also logically impossible if there's infinite stuff before us. So the idea of natural processes, I would hold to the idea that natural processes are grounded in something. They must be grounded in some sort of aspects that are exempt from themselves, just how the idea of the laws of physics are grounded in the universe. The laws of space-time still grounded in the universe. To have something outside of that, I would say, and there's nothing to ground it in, because once again, there's no space, there's no time, you can't ground it in anything. So I would say the idea of natural processes coming around is less likely.
Could it be said that there could be natural processes before and therefore outside of the current state of the universe that we would just have absolutely no idea how any of it works? Like, I'm trying to think of how I can explain this, but it's like a bigger something that our universe came out of that has its own completely different set of natural processes that we have no way to understand.
Yeah, I would just, even if there's like, let's say if we go to the idea of our universe is part of something bigger, right? We have no idea what's going on. I would still just say they're the only, I think that an objective truth we can agree on is no matter how big the universe is, no matter if we're grounded in something, bigger, the idea of logic still holds. Something like, for example, logical truths like something cannot be and both not be at the same time. Logical truths like something cannot be from nothing. Logical truths like something cannot be the own cause of its own existence and still have a beginning. Those are things that I think that we can agree must always be true, logical truths.
Well, one thing that's important to note about logic is laws of logic are things that humans came up with as we were trying to figure out how the current state of the universe as we observe it works. And they're really, really reliable with the universe. But it is still, like the laws of logic aren't some inherently untouchable thing, necessary thing that must always be beyond space and time or whatever. It's stuff that it's us trying to figure out how things work.
Yeah, I would say that I would critique a bit of that there. The laws of logic, as we know them, of course, we display them through language, right? We go, this is an apple, this is a couch, this apple is not a couch. That's logic, right? But the idea of logic and the undergrounding, the foundation of it still holds, even without language. So, even if we never labeled logic, we never called the laws of logic, if things just were, right? I still don't think that an apple would be a couch. At least in, like, the essence of what is an apple, what is a couch. We just label these things as we see them.
The universe does operate as it operates, I agree.
Yeah. So even if there's no... That's the critique I'm trying to get at. Even if there's no language or even, like, no labeling about it, the foundational laws of logic would still hold. I think that most scholars hold to this position as well. I'm not sure if you're willing to grant me that or not. The idea that logic, that the laws of logic are objective parts of reality. The same thing with, like, mathematics are an objective part of reality. There's no universe in which 2 + 2 = 4. Not in the linguistic sense, but like in the objective sense. You can't have one and then not get 2.
I can agree that logic does there's an objective way that the universe works. I might be pedantic again and say that it's possible that we've misunderstood something about mathematics or logic or whatever, that we might not have a perfect understanding of how the universe works, but I do agree that there is, beyond us and beyond our language, beyond our understanding, there is a way that the universe works, and it, for as far as we can tell, cannot work contrary to that. So I think I would agree with you.
Yeah, okay, so we're starting to find more middle ground. That's where I get the idea of things coming from themselves, or things coming outside from something else. Even if it's something outside of the universe, I still think those laws of logic will hold up. I don't think that logic is necessarily grounded to the universe. We just call it objective parts of the universe because that's the only thing we know, as of right now, that it's bound to. But even if we exclude that and we say it's something outside of that, I would still say the laws of logic would carry over because they're more of a metaphysical truth than a spatial or a timeless truth, right? So the laws of logic, even if we grant that it's something else entirely different, spatial truths, timeless truths, metaphysical truths, as we know them, say that's what you would call, like, metaphysical truth. It doesn't matter where it is or how it is, or if there even is a how or a when, it still applies to it. Even with the existence of a God, right? Even if we got the existence of a God, when we mean omnipotent, we do not believe that God can create a square circle. We believe logically omnipotent. We do not believe that God can, like, stop himself from existing because he's an necessary being. We do not believe that God can make someone single and married at the same time. It's logically impossible. So if we can apply the idea of logic to something as great, as like ontologically great as a God, I think that you could still grant it to the idea of something else that's not spatial and timeless outside of our own universe. So I would say that the metaphysical truths of logic still hold even outside, if there was something else outside of the universe. That's why I say natural processes as a whole are less reliable than the idea of God.
Sure. We just have no idea. Or, like, if there are natural processes before time and space.
I feel like we might keep bashing heads on this.
I think I'm gonna keep.
It's all good.
I'm gonna keep getting there because you keep leading me to, like, this hole of, like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. Therefore, it would make sense that it's a God. And I'm sitting here saying, this doesn't make sense. Therefore, we have a hole.
That's the big leap, right? That's the big leap. I'm not saying, like, well, that's the big leap, therefore put your faith in... No, yeah. I honestly, I critique people who do that. If you say, I don't know... Yeah, if you say, I don't know, therefore God, like, please be careful.
There's a lot of...
That's more logically...
There's a lot of good arguments that I've heard where people have absolutely broken down, like, this doesn't make sense. Science doesn't work in this way. Nature can't work this way. Mathematics can't work this way. It's just like
Yeah.
everything that we could possibly understand about how things work or should work would
Yep.
not work. And I'm just like, yeah, I would absolutely agree. And then they say, therefore there's a creator. I was like, you've lost me. I don't know. I don't know how we bridge
Yeah,
that gap
no,
of like,
okay,
we have no idea, therefore I know.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That was something else that I had an idea. We'll get back to the natural process. We'll go on to the final one, which is the eternal ball of energy. I too enjoy this. I think it's more scientific. I just don't agree with the idea of an eternal ball of energy suddenly coming to something else, right? I think that eternal consistency, eternal consistency is something that you gotta have if you're gonna be by definition eternal.
So
if you're
I'm
gonna
not,
be eternal, there's no point in which you can stop being the essence in which you are. So I just think that it suddenly coming into this something else, this magical nothing, this poof in time, I would say doesn't hold up by eternal consistency.
so I'm not as familiar with this ball of energy concept. Can you like explain like what it is, what this like
Yeah.
concept of ball of energy
So
concept is?
yeah, so some people believe, right, that there was, and I do believe that it's more of a scientific idea, but I don't think that it's the most logical. So, like for example, I debated someone named like allegedly Ian, his name was, and he said that he believes the universe came around. He wasn't like an agnostic atheist; he was just like an atheist, and he says he believes the universe came around because of an eternal ball of energy before the universe, an eternally dense point that just, and then the universe popped into existence. The energy, the ball of energy, has always been there. It dispersed across the universe, and over time, billions and billions of years. That's how we got here today. I would just say that it doesn't hold up to eternal consistency. At some point, it just stopped being eternal, and that energy just kind of plopped out into the universe, into this forever focus point. It's kind of hard to say,
Yeah.
or I guess format it away. But he just believed that there was an eternal ball of energy before the universe, and because of how dense it was, at some point, it stopped being this eternal ball of energy and more dispersed across the universe. Which, although I believe that more logical atheists like to take this stance, I still wouldn't understand the logical consistency of something going from eternal to not eternal in its essence. So I would say that the eternal ball of energy wouldn't hold up.
I think I agree with you. With the eternal part is
Yeah.
where it loses me, because the Big Bang is a big expansion from a singularity, from a, I guess you could really dumb it down and say, a ball of energy. But it's the eternal part. It's that ball
Yeah.
was always like that, and then it stopped being
Okay,
that.
so I'm starting to pick up the.
I can understand. I can
don't
understand why
wanna,
you have an issue with the internal part, but I would agree that there was a singularity, a ball of something. I don't know where it came from, how long it was in that state, or what, but that is where the universe expanded from.
Okay, so I think the big thing that. Okay, the big thing that I'm picking up, right? We're able to dismiss this doesn't make sense. This, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think that you're able to dismiss this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. But the idea of therefore going to these don't make sense, but there could be something else, but this makes more sense. That's the big. You don't want to dismiss. Well, there's so many other things, and we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I'm not going to take this, right? An affirmative stance on it.
Yeah, because there's just so
Okay.
much. I don't even know. I mean, we could sit here for 1,000 years and come up with every
Like
single
a billion
possibility.
different ideas,
Yeah,
right?
and none of them
Uh-huh.
could be right.
Yeah, because there's always, for every idea, I think that there's an infinite number of thoughts that can be thought of. If you want to, you could genuinely go into whatever you want, right? But we have to go into the idea of which one do we have more evidence for. So I'm going to give you, so now we're only down to necessary being and natural process. Of course there's other ideas for outside of this, right?
Sure.
Of course there is. But these are the two more well-known and more naturally, or I guess not naturally, sorry, the more logically consistent ones that most scholars take today. So these are the two. Necessary being, natural process. Which one do you want to touch on first?
I mean, I feel like we touched on both of them quite a bit. What specifically would you like to go into about them?
Just any questions that you have about them both. I understand that the idea of, even if I got rid of, let's say I put the most like locked down, oh yep, it cannot be natural process, right? If I give you the most locked down, full secure argument for why it can't be natural process, and I gave you necessary being, I'm pretty convinced that you wouldn't take it anyways. Am I affirmed? Am I correct in saying that?
I could play along with a hypothetical in which we know for a fact that it can only be natural processes or necessary being, and it
Yeah.
cannot be natural processes,
Uh,
then and therefore it would be necessary being. I can maybe go along with
yeah,
that
we can.
hypothetical, but that's not the reality. Which I think you're trying to go along with the hypothetical.
Yeah, I'm just saying that what's it called? Even if even if I gave you like the 1 billion reasons, right? And one of them was necessary beings, and I got rid of all 999 million others, right? With the most like secure, sound arguments in the world, like 100% irrefutable, it cannot be another way arguments. I still think that you'd have an issue with necessary being. So I think that even if I got rid of natural process, it's the necessary being parts that gets you. So do you want to touch on that?
I would agree, because
Okay.
what it is, again, it's when I have people make these conversations, it's like, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, therefore
Therefore, this
necessary being. And I say no, therefore whole, therefore there's
we
just
don't
a
know.
hole. A necessary being
Okay.
could fill that hole if we can demonstrate with actual empirical evidence that that necessary being exists.
Okay. So I'm gonna remove this list I have in chat. Hold on. I just have this long. All right. There you go. So we'll play along again for those in chat. I did not like. This is not like a. Oh, he's absolutely changed his mind about natural processes. We're just going along with the hypothetical about what the issues are with the necessary being, or about why he wouldn't take that stance. So let's play into let's play into, instead of why the other things can't be, I'll give you more evidence for why I believe a necessary being to be. How about that?
Sure. And I am probably going to
Okay.
wrap up the stream here shortly.
Yeah.
Just
Do
time
you have a
wise.
time? I'll make sure to. Yeah, I'll make sure to keep it within a time. What time are you thinking?
Just try to just make it as quick as you can without just completely throwing it away. Or if you want to, if you don't think you can condense it, we can always come back to it later. Either way.
All right, I'm gonna squash this into like the two big ones, right? One, I think that the fine tuning of the universe is way too. It's way too complex to say that it came around by pure chance. I would just go to the idea of like, you're sitting at a poker table or like a blackjack, I forgot what it was, and the person next to you just hits royal flush like 50 times in a row. I would just say that it's more probable that it's rigged in their favor rather than it just happened naturally, right? And the second thing, I would just say that we experience moral truths. And those moral truths must come not from subjective thought or our own human experiences, but something else outside of us, and they're not subjective. So something is always correct, no matter who says it,
So
or like who says otherwise.
with the fine tuning, if the universe worked any differently, and we came about any differently, but we were still here, we would be having the exact same conversation about how fine tuned it is. We're looking at just the way that the universe is, and we have no way of telling if it could have been any different. So like, we don't even know the odds of the universe coming into being. We don't know the odds of this planet and us coming into being. Especially when you go inside the universe and the probability of us, the necessary things for life are very abundant throughout the universe, and we have an seemingly infinite, possibly infinite universe that is very old and filled with stuff, and it does a lot of stuff. When you say stuff like the chances of life coming to be on a planet with the perfect distance from the sun and whatnot, even if the odds of that are 1 in a trillion, there are probably more than a trillion planets in the universe. So it's when it comes to that kind of size, the odds become almost inevitable. And when you talk about how, the universe could have happened a different way, we have no idea. Again, we have no idea if it could have happened a different way. We don't have any other universe to compare it to or anything like that. And it almost dips into the puddle analogy, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, no. Well, look at this. This puddle's perfectly formed for me.
Yeah.
I think that analogy is a bit silly, in my opinion. The better analogy I would state is, if I were to play into your point, is let's say there's 500 men in front of you, right? Each containing a pistol. They're extremely well trained with the pistol, and they all point at you and they all fire, and you survive, right? And you go, well, of course I survived. If I didn't survive, I wouldn't be able to have this conversation. So the idea of well, I'm here, therefore, yeah, of course there's where it's survivorship bias. I would just say it acts a little bit silly.
Yeah.
So I'm not specifically pointing out life in particular. I'm just the odds of the universe at all existing. I can give you like the .gov document about the fine tuning constants or the universal constants. But the fact that the universe exists at all, I think, is extremely strong evidence towards the existence of a god. The fact that out of all of these 1 bazillion trillions that we just so happen to be, and then saying, oh yeah, well of course, because we're here. I think that's a little bit silly.
Again, we just have no idea what other possibilities there could have possibly been. And if it was any different and life still came about, that life would be having this exact same conversation. Even if like life in the universe and everything was completely different, unlike anything we could ever imagine, they would still be having the same conversation.
Yeah. Again, that's what's it called? The idea of, oh, we have no idea about what else or what this or that. We do have a big idea on one thing. If we adjust one constant in relativity with all of the other ones, right? The universe wouldn't exist. That's not really debated among people. So like if you were to adjust the gravitational constant and just made it a little bit just a little bit weaker, right? The universe probably couldn't form stars. Everything would just disperse out. The universe couldn't really support anything. Existence as we know it, reality as we know it, probably just wouldn't be. At least not in the I guess more natural way as we observe it, right?
I would agree.
Or if you were to talk about the gravitation or not the gravitational force, but like the weight of like a neutron, then everything would just kind of crumble together. The universe would not be. So the idea of life is something else entirely different. That's like the fine tuning of life. I'm talking about the universe in particular. So that's what I'd hold to. We do have some ideas about how the universe would be if you adjust constants in relativity with each other. That's not really debated too well, or like too much among people. So that's something I would plead to in this case.
I would agree that if things were different, the universe could not exist in its current state. But then the question becomes, would it not exist at all? Would it exist in some completely other way? Would it settle into some other, more uniform state that we just have no idea?
Yeah. Again, I just go to the idea of, well, most people agree, most scholars agree that if you if you tune it in whatever other way, then it's less likely. It's less likely than likely that it'll just stop. Or sorry, it's more likely that it'll just stop. The universe will not be. So I just hold to that idea.
Okay. So
I think that I think that we'll like go back and forth like one more time, and then I think that'll be a good time to end stream.
I want to touch on the morality thing real quick before.
Yeah,
and not to like rush all the conversations. I'd be more than happy to have more conversations with you in the future. I just have time crunches. The morality thing is humans came up with a system of morals and ethics throughout history as we learned how to deal with one another and work with one another for the betterment of a society and the people within a society, including ourselves. And it seems like we've mostly settled on a good foundation of morals and ethics based on well-being. And that's advantageous to us and to a society, and therefore us. That is still a subjective thing that we have landed on. But with that, it can form, it's subjective, but it can form an objective basis. In that even though it's subjective, if we're using well-being as our standard, there are things that objectively go against well-being. And so then we can shape our morals and ethics around that. Theft, murder, sexual abuse, things of the like, would be objectively against this well-being idea. And the well-being is just a good one because it just seems to be the one that makes the most sense. It's advantageous, again, for all of us. I don't want to be murdered or robbed or anything. You probably don't. So it would make sense if we create and or support a society where theft and murder are illegal.
Yeah, so I'm willing to grant you the idea of if we base our morals off something, then things can be objectively wrong, right? I would just say that this something, in order to be a true objectiveness, I would just say that it must be exempt from like any human affairs. And what I mean by that is like if we come to the idea of hurting somebody is wrong, right? If there is no moral truths in the universe outside of us, that's a subjective take. If you base something off of that and just that alone, You can apply whatever value you want to it and then say, yeah, this is objective because of the value I apply to it, but in reality, I would say that it's still subjective and has no value. But we like to live as if it does have objective value.
I would say
So-
that I would say I do not believe in objective morality.
Okay, so you're a relativist?
Not necessarily. I
So what type of morality do you hold to?
I typically, the definition of relativism is escaping me. Would you mind doing a quick vocab thing for me there?
Yeah, let me make sure I don't get this wrong.
There's so many
'Cause-
terms and stuff that I try to memorize, and it's like I've looked at this term 1,000 times, and my brain just kicks it out.
So it's just this is first page. It's the philosophical idea that standards for truth, knowledge, morality, and other concepts are not absolute, but rather depend on a specific framework, like culture, historical period, or individual perspective. So it's something that we make, not something that's true inherently.
Perhaps, yeah. Because I think all morality is subjective.
Okay. So I have like a billion other questions, but I don't want to hog up your time. But
I think
I would love to touch back with you on this, man.
I would like it too. This was a good conversation and very informative. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Of course. I hope you have a great day.
Yeah,
As always, I'll see you. Actually, let me sub to the channel. Let me put on these noties real quick. I'm not sponsored, but yeah, I should sub too. I would love to see this guy grow. He's a very honest guy. But
Try to be.
yeah, as always, I'll leave you be, man, and maybe I'll tune in for the next stream. We can touch on that morality topic or touch back on that natural process. And I hope you have a good day.
I hope you have a good one. Thank you for being here.
Later.
All right. Great conversation, I think. Great conversations. Chat, how we doing? Everyone having fun? I don't pay attention to chat hardly at all when I'm on the Discord with people, just because I can't focus on both, and I think it would be disrespectful if I focus on anything other than the person I'm verbally speaking with. So, everyone behaving, everyone having fun. Is everyone still friends in chat? all good. Have you explained how the solar system can exist without God and how stars and the sun was made before Earth? Yeah. Unlike the order of operations in Genesis. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for stopping by. I think I'm going to go ahead and end the stream there. Nice stream, good conversations, great voice call. Thank you all for being here. I usually go live every Tuesday night at about 9:30 p.m.-ish Central Standard Time. But I like to do live streams throughout the week when I have time, if and when I have time. So, subscribe, so you'll get some kind of notification or whatever when I go live. Hi.
Hi.
And thank you, everyone, for being a part of the stream. I'm always grateful for anyone who gives me 2 seconds of their time. I'm a random nobody on the internet. I don't deserve your time or attention. So anyone giving me even a small amount of their attention is greatly appreciated. And then people who who stick around and chat, subscribe, who hop on the Discord, it's cool. And I appreciate it. I really, really do. So thank you all so much for being here. If you're having conversations with each other, the live streams are posted as videos after I end them. I don't know if it's immediate or how long it takes. But you can continue. Like I always feel bad about like interrupting people's conversations that they're having with each other. So you can keep continuing the conversations in the comment section below after I post it if you want to keep talking. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, day, whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you later maybe. Bye.